Zane Grey, Wanderer of the Wasteland, Chapter 27, Part 2. Adam went toward the house, which was mostly concealed by vines and oaks, and presently happened upon a scene that seldom gladdened the eyes of a desert wanderer. On a green plot under the trees, several children stopped their play to stare at Adam, and one ran to the open door. There were white pigeons flying about the roof and gray rabbits in the grass and ducks wading in the brook. Adam heard the cackle of hens and the bray of a burro. A column of blue smoke lazily rose upward from a gray adobe fire-blackened oven. Before Adam got to the door, a woman appeared there with the child at her skirts. She was a middle-aged and stout lady, evidently a hard-working rancher's wife. She had a brown face, rather serious but kind, Adam thought. And he looked keenly because he was now getting into the civilized country that he expected would become Jeannie's home. "Good evening, ma'am," he said. "Will you let me camp out there by the oaks?" "How do you do, stranger?" she replied. "Yes, you're welcome, but you're only a mile or so from Santa Isabel. There's a good inn." "Time enough to go there tomorrow or the next day," replied Adam. "You see, ma'am, I'm not alone. I've got a young girl with me. We're from the desert, and I want her to have some decent clothes before I take her where there are people." The woman laughed pleasantly. "Your daughter?" she asked with interest. "No relation," replied Adam. I was a friend of her mother who died out on the desert." "Stranger, you're welcome to my house overnight." "Thank you, but I'd rather not trouble you. We'll be very comfortable. It's a nice place to camp." "Come far?" asked the woman, whose honest blue eyes were taking stock of Adam. "Yes, far for Jeannie. We've been about 10 days coming over the mountains." "Reckon you'd like some milk and eggs for supper?" "Well, now, ma'am, if you only knew how I would like some," returned Adam heartily. "And poor Jeannie, who has fared so long on desert grub, she'd surely appreciate your kindness." "I'll fetch some over or send it by my boy," she said. Adam returned thoughtfully to the little grove where he had elected to camp. This woman's kindness and the glint of sympathy in her eyes brought him up short with the certitude that they were the very virtues he was looking for in a person to whom he intended to trust Jeannie. It behooved him from now on to go keenly at the task of finding that person. It would not be easy. For the present, he meant to hide any hint of Jeannie's small fortune, and had cautioned her to do the same. Jeannie appeared tired and glad to sit down on the green grassy bank. "I'll help in a little while," she said. "Isn't this a pretty place? Oh, the grass feels so cool and smells so sweet. Wani, what did you see at the house?" "Some youngsters and a nice woman," replied Adam. It was on his tongue to tell Jeannie about the milk and eggs for supper, but in the interest of a surprise, he kept silent. Sunset had passed when Adam got the pack spread, the fire built, and supper underway. At length, the supper appeared to be about ready, except for the milk and eggs that had been promised. Adam set the pot and pan aside at the edge of the fire and went off in search of some wood that would be needed later. He packed a big log of dead oak back to camp, bending under its weight. And when he looked up, he saw a handsome, stalwart lad, bareheaded and in shirt sleeves, standing just beyond the fire, holding out with brown, muscular arms a big pan of milk. And the milk was spilling over the edges, and on one of his fingers hung a small bucket full of eggs. He had to balance himself carefully while he stooped to deposit the bucket of eggs on the ground. "Hey, Johnny, where'll I put the milk?" he called cheerily. Adam was astounded and suddenly tickled to see Jeannie trying to hide behind one of the packs. She succeeded in hiding all but her head, which at the moment wore an old cap that made her look more than ever like a boy. "My name's not Johnny," she flashed with spirit. The lad appeared nonplussed. probably more at the tone of voice than the speech. Then he laughed. Adam liked the sound of that laugh, its ring and its heartiness. "Sammy, then, come get this milk," called the boy. Jeannie maintained silence, but she glared over the top of the pack. "Look here, bub," the lad went on plaintively. "I can't stand this way all night. Mother wants the pan. Boy, are you deef? Say, bub, I won't eat you." "How dare you call me bub?" cried Jeannie hotly. "Well, I'll be doggone," exclaimed the young feller. "Listen to the kid. I'll call you worse than bub in a minute. Hurry, bubby." Jeannie made a quick movement that whirled her around with her cap flying off, and then she got to her knees. Thus, with face disclosed and blazing eyes and curls no boy ever had, she presented a vastly different aspect. "I'm no boy. I'm a lady," she declared with angry, trembling voice of outraged dignity. "What?" gasped the lad. Then in his amaze and horror, he dropped the pan of milk, and it splashed all over, nearly drowning out the fire. "Hello, what's the trouble?" asked Adam, genially appearing from the oaks. I spilled the milk Mother sent," he replied in confusion. "Oh, that's too bad. No wonder. Such a lot of milk. What's your name?" "It's Eugene, sir. Eugene Blair." "Well, that's queer, Eugene Blair. My name's Wansville, and I'm glad to meet you," said Adam, offering his hand. "Now let me make you acquainted with Miss Eugenie Linwood." The only acknowledgement that Jeannie gave to her first introduction was a slow sinking down behind the pack. Her expression delighted Adam. As for the young man, he appeared to be about 20 years old, and he was overcome with embarrassment. Glad to know you, Miss Linwood," he gulped. "Please excuse me. Mother never said there was a girl, and you look so. I thought you were a boy." "That's all right, son," put in Adam kindly. "Jeannie did look like a boy, so I've been telling her." "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll run back after more milk," said the lad hurriedly, and grasping up the pan, he ran away. "Well, Miss Know-it-all," said Adam banteringly, "what did I tell you? Didn't I tell you we'd meet some nice young fella?" He didn't see all of me," replied Jeannie tragically. "What? Why, a fellow with eyes like his could see right through that pack," declared Adam. "He called me bub," suddenly exclaimed Jeannie, her tone changing from one of tragic woe to one of tragic resentment. "Bub, the first boy I ever met in my whole life." "Why shouldn't he call you bub?" queried Adam. "There's no harm in that." And when he discovered his mistake, he apologized like a little man. "I hate him," flashed Jeannie. "I'd starve to death before I'd eat his eggs and milk." And with that, she flounced off into the clump of oaks. Adam was seeing Jeannie in a new light. It amused him greatly, and yet he could not help but look ruefully after her, somewhat uncertain. Feminine reactions were unknown quantities. Jeannie reminded him wonderfully of girls he had known when he was 17. Presently, young Blair returned with more milk and also considerably more self-possession. Not seeing Jeannie, he evidently took the hint and quickly left. "Come over after supper," called Adam. "All right," he replied, and then he was gone. Very shortly, then, Adam had supper prepared, to which he cheerfully invited Jeannie. She came reluctantly with furtive eyes on the green beyond the camp, and she sat down to fold her feet under her after the manner of an Indian. Adam, without any comment, served her supper, not omitting a generous quantity of fragrant fried eggs and a brimming cupful of creamy milk, wherein Jeannie utterly forgot or magnificently disdained any recollection of what she'd said. She even asked for more, but she was vastly removed from the gay and light-hearted Jeannie. "What'd you ask him back for?" she demanded. Well, I want to talk to him. Don't you? Replied Adam innocently. Me? When you call me Bob? Jeannie, be sensible. They're nice people. I think I'll camp here a day or so. We'll rest up and that'll give me time to look around. Look around? What'll become of me? Wailed Jenny miserably. You can watch camp. I dare say young Blair will forget your rudeness and be nice to you. Then Jeannie glared with terrible eyes upon Adam, and she seemed between tears and rage. I never knew you could be like this. Like what? Jeannie, I declare I'm half ashamed of you. Nothing has happened. Only this lad mistook you for a boy. Anyone would think the world had come to an end. All because you woke up and found out you had on boys' clothes. Well, you've got to take your medicine now. You would wear 'em. You never minded me. You didn't care how I saw you. I don't care how he saw me or sees me either. So there, declared Jeannie enigmatically. Oh, well, what's wrong then? Queried Adam, more curious than ever. It was what he called me, replied Jeannie confusedly. Adam gazed at her downcast face with speculative eyes, intuitively feeling that she had not told the whole truth. He had anticipated trouble with this spirited young wild creature from the desert once they got into civilization. Jeannie, I've been mostly in fun. Now I'm serious. I want you to be perfectly natural and nice with these Blairs, or anyone else we meet. Manifestly, she took that seriously enough. Without another word, she dragged her blankets and canvas away from the firelight, and at the edge of the gathering gloom, under the oak, she made her bed and crawled into it. A little while after dark, young Blair presented himself at Adam's fire and took a seat to which he was invited. I suppose you folks are ranching here? Asked Adam by way of opening conversation. It's hardly a ranch, though we have hopes, replied Blair. Mother and I run the farm. My father's not. He's away. Looks like good soil, plenty of water and fine grass, observed Adam. Best farming country all around, these valleys, declared the lad, warming to enthusiasm. Ranchers are taking it all up. Only a few valleys left. There's one just below this, about 100 acres. If I could only get that, but no such luck for me. You can never tell, said Adam in his quiet way. You say ranchers are coming in? Yes, San Diego is growing fast. People are buying out the Mexicans and Indians up in these hills. In a few years, any rancher with one of these valleys will be rich. How much land do you own? My mother bought this little farm here, 10 acres in the valley, which was about 90. But my father, we lost the valley, and we managed to live here. Adam's quick sympathy divined that something pertaining to the lad's father was bitter and unhappy. He questioned further about the farm, what they raised, where they marketed it, how many cattle, horses, chickens, ducks they had. In half an hour, he knew more and liked the boy more. You're pretty well educated for a farmer boy, remarked Adam. I went to school till I was 16. We're from Indiana, Vincennes. Father got the gold fever, and we came west. Mother and I took a sure way of living. You like ranching then? Gee, but I love to be a real rancher. There's not only money in cattle and horses on a big scale, but it's such a fine life, outside all the time. Oh, well, I do have the outdoors as much as anybody. But for Mother and the kids, I'd like to do better by them. I saw the youngsters and I'd like to get acquainted. Tell me about them. Nothing much to tell. They're like little Indians. Tommy's 3, Betty's 4, Hal's 5. He was a baby when we came west. The trip was too hard on him. He's been delicate, but he's slowly getting stronger. Well, you've a fine family. How are you going to educate them? That's our problem. Mother and I must do our best until maybe we can send them to school at San Diego. When your ship comes in, yes, I'm always hoping for that, but first I'd like my ship to start out so it can come back loaded. The lad laughed. He was imaginative and full of fire and pathos, and yet clear-headed and courageous, neither blind to the handicap under which he labored, nor morose at his fetters. Yes, if a man waits for his ship to come in, sometimes it never comes, said Adam. I suppose you'll be on your way to town early? Asked Blair as he rose. I guess I'll not break camp tomorrow. Jeannie's tired, and I won't mind a little rest. Hope we'll see you again. Thank you. Good night. When he was gone, Adam took to pacing along the edge of the oaks. In the light of the campfire, he saw the gleam of Jeannie's wide-open eyes. She'd heard every word of Adam's conversation with young Blair. He felt a great sympathy for Jeannie. Like a child, she was face to face with new life, new sensations, poignant and bewildering. How might he best help her? End of chapter. Then at Adam's bantering laughter, she bravely dashed into the ordeal of bathing face and hands with that icy water. Adam did not have any particular objective point in mind. He felt strangely content to let circumstances of travel or chance or his old wandering instinct guide him. They traveled leisurely through the foothills on the western side of the Sierra Madres, finding easy trails and good campsites and meeting Indians by the way. 6 days out from the desert, they reached a wagon road, and that led down to a beautiful country of soft, velvety green hills and narrow, pleasant valleys where clumps of live oaks grew. And here and there nestled a ranch. So they traveled on. The country grew less rugged, and some of it appeared to belong to great ranches, once the homes of Spanish grandees. Late one afternoon, travel brought them within sight of Santa Isabel. Adam turned off the main road in search of a place to camp, and passing between two beautiful hills, he came upon a little valley, all green with live oaks and brown with tilled ground. He saw horses, cattle, and finally a farmhouse, low and picturesque, of the vine-covered adobe style particular to a country first inhabited by the Spanish. End of chapter 27, part 2.